Okay, welcome everybody to Open Space Committee, January 11th, 2024.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
Everybody's turned them on. Can you hear us now?
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay, it just needed to be turned on and off a few times.
Turn it on, unplug it and plug it back in.
Yep, good old IT solution apparently is keep unplugging and plug it back until it works.
So Bernadette's here and
Yep, so yes,
Paige is here.
and member Page. And member Pascarelli is also here, so we have a quorum.
Okay, great. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
No
Any-
changes?
No changes, no, great, okay. Is everyone in favor of approving the agenda?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. The agenda is approved. The next item is election of officers, so we're doing another election.
Yep. Sorry to put you through this again, but it gets done annually.
Okay.
It's kind of, yeah, it got kind of rolled out last year because it kind of got brought through, but now we're in a new year. Kind of as the way, it's typical way of doing it. Every year you do it for boards and commissions. So right now, the chair is Chairwoman Pascarelli.
Yep.
And then yes.
Endorse the current slate.
So the one item I would actually say, so on the current slate, I went back and reviewed the minutes and right now, Vice Chair and Secretary Conway are the same slot. So Bernadette, you have both of those positions. So if we want to kind of just roll through it, or if you want to, I would say just kind of roll through the process. Again, I'll just give you the reminder. It's that you call for a nomination. Someone makes a nomination. The nomination actually doesn't need a second. It can get it. It's not a deficiency either way. You call for any other nominations. If there's no more nominations heard, you close the nominations and call for a vote.
Okay. Well, let's open nominations for chair. And, okay, are there any other nominations?
Yep, and there's always if you accept.
There's a hand up.
Okay, there's a hand up. Bernadette?
I was just going to make a motion to nominate Gia Pascarelli as chair.
Thank you. So are there any other nominations
I would second that.
Okay, then there are no, I'm assuming there are no other nominations. I like to close the nominations for chair. And should we vote on it now or should we vote it at the end?
You can vote on it.
Okay,
Let's do it as we go.
so anyone, all in favor of having me be the chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's all set. That passes unanimously. And then, let's open the nominations for vice chair. I nominate, if she would accept, Bernadette Conway as vice chair.
I
I'll
do.
second that.
Thank you.
Great. So let's close the nomination. Oh, are there any other nominations? Sounds like there aren't. Let's close the nominations for vice chair and let's vote on that. Yes, yay for Bernadette as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Bernadette Conway, vice chair by unanimous vote. And then let's open the nominations for the secretary.
Secretary, yep.
And in this case, we would allow it if somebody could, take that role, I guess, if Bernadette Conway would be interested. But I would also nominate Bernadette
So I
Conway.
would say we should do a separate person to not have the same person in the two roles. That was
We
actually
should
kind
try to do that.
of, we should try to have
Okay.
a separate.
Fair enough.
I guess if you anticipate more board members getting appointed before the next meeting, you could table it until then
Yep.
as well.
And I know Sandra, is very interested in this committee, Sandy.
Okay.
So I think
So-
if you tabled, that would be a good staff recommendation. That what we accept as part of it. That's part of Robert rules. So
Yeah,
you don't get
And
nominated
last
when
time
you're
she
not there.
didn't want to be, so then maybe that would be not in our case, fair to her. All right, so let's table the nomination and election of the secretary. And for the next meeting, which is in April. Is that acceptable?
Vice Chair Conway's hand is up.
I make a motion to table the election of the secretary until the next meeting.
Second,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So that'll be on the agenda for the
All
next
right,
meeting.
Now we're done with that.
Great. Okay. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to take a look at these attachments. We had,
Yeah,
Sure.
yes, so the
Okay.
first thing on the agenda is the adoption of the schedule for Open Space Committee, which meets quarterly on the second Thursday at
I
6:30.
do believe, Eric, you noted on one of these, there could be a potential conflict in this room, but I think the dates are okay because one of the dates got
yeah.
moved.
There's actually two conflicts. There's July and October, I believe. They both conflict with ZBA.
Okay.
So if ZBA has a meeting and you guys don't meet, we'll just go to all Zoom or something like that.
Okay.
We'll be able to work it out. I'm
All right.
sure.
We could always, if people want to meet in person, commandeer one of the rooms upstairs, the big
Right.
meeting room in the middle, that's all hooked up with Zoom, I think would
Cool.
work as well.
Okay. So we're going to vote on the schedule.
Yep.
So I make a motion,
Yeah, Vice Chair Conway's hand is up.
Vice Conway, Vice Chair Conway.
Thank you. I was just going to make a motion to adopt the regular meeting dates for 2024.
Awesome. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
so the dates are confirmed. We have public comments on the agenda next. Is there anyone attending this meeting on Zoom?
There is one person in the room, but they do not have their hand raised.
Okay. Right, then we can move on. Approval of the minutes. So we have the minutes from the last meeting. If everyone had a chance to take a look at that. Took a look at it. It seems in line with our meeting. Is it
I move to approve.
second? I'll second
second.
that. Okay, and all in favor of approving the minutes from 10/12/23?
Aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. So new business tonight, we'll be looking at the criteria for the acquisition of open space. This is on the handout under new business for criteria for the acquisition of open space. It's about a page long. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to take a look at it. We've basically,
So
Paul,
what
if you
I'd
want to
like,
speak to that?
yep, what I'd like to do is, I have kind of put together on the slides what I've kind of changed, since the last time
Great.
from, the committee's input. So if we, go to the next one, so, of course, I can show you on the next, well, I incorporated the survey results from the P O C D and annual town community assessment survey. So I didn't actually put the physical ones in, but I did note that they were the top priorities, and I'll have that on the next slide. I incorporated the Cedar Mountain Trap Rock Ridge, kind of noted in there when we talked about, it was discussed about those specific, features, geological features. So I did that. I incorporated pollinator pathways in the enhancement of open space resources. So those are specifically called out and identified.
Nice.
Again, and the other item would be, so this is, I was asked to talk to the, or to speak and consult with our grant consultant. She did review these criteria. She had some minor little tweaks and recommended on language. This was one area she recommended for language. It got put in the purpose section of it, and really the community's desire, actually, sorry, that's a survey. I moved ahead on myself. So this is back to the survey. Sorry about that. This is the language from the survey that I put in the document. So the community desire to preserve open space is exemplified in surveys ranking it as the top community issue in the Plan of Conservation and Development and the annual town community assessment survey. So we can go to the next slide. So I just have up for you here, that was part of the key findings that came through. I actually was able to go back and rewatch the presentation to the town council. I had actually a little hard time finding the document. I know it's marked confidential and wherever it lives right now, but during the presentation, the key findings, again, they were asked for which are the top, about 3 issues, the top 3 issues that we should priorities for the town to address. Over half of the respondents, the number was 53% indicated preserving open space. And the other 2 are right along with it, with preserving town character with 37.8, and then minimizing environmental impact from development at 34.6. And then on the next slide. And this is the survey section from the POCD. This is when they did the voting with dollars exercise. So this kind of shows, this is the amount of respondents that kind of voted for each of these categories. And as you can see, open space was clearly the most important to those voting and to the survey respondents by a good margin. So that has been incorporated in. If there's any other comments about, having too much specifics on percentages in that, but I think just stating that they are the top priority, these 2 show they're the top priority, and I think it does make a statement.
Agreed.
So we'll move along. Again, incorporated the Cedar Mountain Trap Rock Ridge, pollinator pathways. This is part, I reviewed the draft with the grant consultant. You can look at I didn't put this up specifically, I don't believe, but the language for strategic plannings and objectives, they're far more active now. It's not to preserve, it's not to that. So they've been a little streamlined. Everything is still there. Just the wording has been changed a little to be more of that active language. And I think that kind of works. And again, that was a recommendation of the grant consultant. I'm like, absolutely, sounds good.
Great.
And then the other recommendation was to really look at, along with the purpose of we're doing this, how we align with the green plan for the state of Connecticut. So that's the state of Connecticut's acquisition plan for open space. And the statement is Newington's criteria for open space will strategically align with the green plan, thereby contributing to Connecticut's statewide open space objectives, where municipalities hold a pivotal role. As the committee prepares these criteria, it aims to take into consideration state-provided funding opportunities. The commitment not only supports the state visions for a diverse and accessible environment, but also significantly contributes to establishing a framework for future funding of open space projects through grants. So again, it's acknowledging the state, the work that they've done, but also what is the purpose of this document. It kind of, I think, ties that together. So if there's any comments on that.
No, it's
No,
great.
it's
I mean, in
good.
my opinion, it's
Okay.
Thank you.
I just have one. there's so much. This probably isn't the place to bring it up, but maybe it is. With the development that's going on, is there any way we can, it's not like acquisition of open space, but something like working with developers to try and ensure some kind of open space where, you know, so that it's not just apartments, that they'll consider some kind of.
Yeah, I think, and that's kind of, I was kind of gonna get there kind of at the end of it too, but I've been thinking about a ways and I've been, I haven't actually got it graphically yet, but what my plan is to do, again, this is the acquisition, the, you know, criteria for acquisition. But ultimately, but this is the criteria. The reason why you would acquire it is because it has the assets you desire. It has those characteristics that are important. The goal really from here, again, while this is for acquisition, to move it forward to council, and that's something I'll bring up too. I did review the actual founding resolution, and we kind of had a discussion about, is this going to be just the committee's document? Is it council's? And actually, I was advised that the proper way would be for the committee, if you find that you approve of this draft, to move it forward to council for their consideration. And then if council says, yes, this is the document, then it becomes the founding document, you know, that this committee uses. Because the way the structure work is the council actually refers to the open space committee. So, and this is a way of the open space committee helping set, you know, those criteria that when things are referred to them, they're looking at them for it. So I think it goes hand in hand. It fits within the spirit and scope of what we're looking at, but I think it would go to council for their consideration. So after that would happen, my goal would be to take these criteria, and I want to look at the natural resource corridors that we have, what these prime functions are in those corridors, and what areas would be next to them, what areas are adjacent, not only for acquisition of open space, it might help the open space, but what can we do for potential future development? But once you know what you have out there and completely know what you have, you know the areas you should focus on. And the goal isn't going to be, as we kind of been advised in the past, not to say that one parcel. It should be really kind of an area, a heat map, kind of just an area of influence of saying in this area, it could do the most to contribute to an environmental resource. From there, and again, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. This is something that will take time to do. But from there, I would actually like to look at zoning incentives and looking at ways. You know, there are potential ways that, yes, you can encourage that type of development. Again, it's all going to be contextual. It's all going to be how it fits within the zone and the area it's in. But is there a way to pull back from the resource, but also to allow the same level of intensity of development that a current landowner would be able to do now in redevelopment? So you're not asking, you know, you're trying to get that perfect world scenario of it works out on paper and it has an environmental benefit. That would be my end goal. It will take some work to get there. You know, it's zoning regulations, it's studying, but my goal would be, this is really the first step in me identifying, helping me identify those specific criteria that I'm going to hone in on. That's my ultimate goal.
No, and that sounds like really good. But I was actually thinking when you were talking about this is for acquisition, but is there a way that, and I know we can't influence zoning, you know, but is there a way that this committee, you know, with your guidance can create kind of a communication that we can send to TPZ and just say, you know, if able to, can you somehow try and work with developers to maintain as much, you know what I mean?
If I may, on two recently approved projects, we had the open space subdivision off of Church Street that required a dedication of acreage to the town, which, you know, so that will be coming forth. And then one of the apartment projects, 45% of the property they're dedicating is conservation easements. Granted, it's still in fee simple in their name, but it restricts building and stuff like that within those easements. So there is a little bit of that does
If there was
happen.
like a communication from this committee to TPZ and just say, hey, you know, we're really excited and appreciate, you know, these two developments and hope that in the future, as developers come forward, you can kind of
Consider
consider,
whatever.
or, you know, try and incent them or try and motivate them
Yep, it's something I'll definitely look into. I just want to make sure I don't go too far out of my scope as staff and,
Yeah.
yeah, but no, that is, and again, it's something that, you know, in my role, all things are considered. And that's what you have to do. You know, you consider how things pencil out, and at the end of the day, for development, for the grand list, for that, things have to pencil out, but it needs to be done responsibly. And so that's where the balance is.
Any other questions or comments about the?
Was that the end? Oh, yeah. So that's that one section.
Yep.
Another thing that was asked of me, so I just kind of put this up there for you, because the committee really asked, where do we kind of rank next to our neighbors?
Yep.
So I just kind of, the simplest way to look at it, it's more nuanced than this, but for example, we have Weathersfield on the right and Newington on the left, and that will continue for the next ones going through. So you can kind of see residential, we're actually a little more residential of the total area, but not by much. Business uses, they have theirs kind of put together. They have a separate public institutional business. We're kind of similar. We do have actually a little more intense on business uses, on as you can see, but they have agricultural separated out. We do have very little agricultural land. The agricultural land we have right now is pretty much either owned by us or has a restriction put on it for development rights.
Right.
Most of the agricultural land has been turned over. But just to kind of give you an example, but the main thing is open space. And as you can see, for total land area, we're about as close as you get for community sizes. 8,383 acres for us, 8,391 acres for Weathersfield. So for an analogy, looking at the two, now they have a higher percentage of dedicated open space because, again, it is a little more agricultural. Some areas haven't been developed out as much. We have 14% of total land area that's considered dedicated open space managed or water company land. So we can move to the next slide. So this is Rocky Hill and Newington. Again, pretty close in size of towns that we're at. You can see residential, again, our 42% to their 38. Business uses 16 to 14. Community facilities pretty close, 8 and 7. And open space in Newington about 14%, and Rocky Hill about 10%. So you can see we kind of differ a little bit amongst our neighbors, but nothing is so far out of the ballpark. And it kind of noted above too, specifically in our land use section, as it notes that about, a possibility of 500 acres, 580 acres total could be out there. Again, we don't have that. There's going to be some different areas to look at for potential open space and conservation and development, but that's just kind of something to note that's in the POCD. And just for comparison between the two communities. There we go. Yep, and then the last community, West Hartford did it in a slightly different way with a pie chart. But you can see they're at about 18% open space. They are a larger community, land area size than us, but you can see single family, they're about 45%, multifamily, so they're about 48%, and we're about 42% residential uses. I think that might be the end of it. Yep, so that's really the end of, and again, that question was asked, so I wanted to provide you a little information. Any questions, we have during these, please let me know. Anything you want to know, learn, I can look into it. As far as the draft goes, we have the option of taking a look at it, seeing if there's any specific comments. If the committee is okay with the draft, we can look in the process of going, again, as discussed, and it was recommended to me that if the committee does wish to move it forward, it would be kind of a vote or a motion to what did I exactly say before? Sorry, bad sleep night last night.
Isn't it just, it's a motion to accept this and move it forward to council?
Yes, yeah.
No, it looks really well written. I appreciate your effort on this.
That's it, to approve and move it forward for council's consideration. That's the exact words I was looking for.
Approve and move it forward for council's consideration. So it becomes something that sort of we draft and we are standing behind, and then the council would also have to adopt it.
They basically codify it for you.
They codify. it.
Or they'll have discussions, and so if that's something that you're ready to do at this meeting, if it's something that you want me to have a further discussion, again, it was a recent discussion with, town manager and those who have had a little more experience and not experience, a little more length of service than I have in the town to know how the processes were put together. Because again, it's interesting how the Open Space Committee was formed, because the Open Space Committee was formed by resolution. So, it's not in the code of ordinances, it's not in the charter. It doesn't have as much of a strictly, constructed, it's just the resolution, again, it talks about, items that are referred from council primarily. And, help that is asked from council is a lot of the wording that's in this resolution. So moving it forward to council again would be for their consideration.
If I recall, the reason the resolution came to be was actually in response to an issue of the community came forward from a grassroots, and it was the whole market piece, whatever, so. Now, when it goes to the council, then, the council would say, hey, this really looks good, and they would agree with it. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, I believe we can have discussions on it. And again, if it's moved forward for their considerations, and then it will be, in front of town manager and leadership to have a discussion about how they would like to handle it. And that, I haven't had too many of committees that were quite set up like this. Most of the, commissions I'm used to are, state statute enabled. That's why they're there. There's very really clear rules. But that's kind of what I'm looking at and what I've been recommended. Again, it's for consideration. So if it's something that you want to do at this meeting, it can't, if you wanted to wait, it would be waiting till April. Right now we're going into budget season, but it's something that can be moved forward consideration, and it can be put on when the council has the ability to bring it.
So if they want to make it, the council gets it and wants to make changes, does it come back to us, or do they have the authority to?
I think they may have the authority, but that would be something to discuss. It's for their consideration. If they say no, yes, and this is an item that I believe I would be in front of council to discuss it too, and maybe Chair Pasquarelli might come with me as well, or yeah. So there would actually be good representation in the room and understanding of how we've got to this point.
Yeah. Does anybody have concerns about, to sleep on it or think about it or read it?
Commissioner Conway has her hand
Oh,
raised.
great.
Thank you. I don't have any concerns with it. I'm happy with it, and I would actually like to make a motion to adopt this and move it to the town council for consideration for their adoption. Now, if anyone is uncomfortable with that, the purpose of my motion is at least to make the motion and get it in motion so we can have a discussion, even though we have been doing some discussion about it. But if there are concerns, I'm fine if it doesn't move forward at this meeting, if everyone else is more comfortable waiting until the next meeting. But personally, I'm comfortable with it. And so that's why I made the motion to do so.
Commissioner Page has his hand raised.
Yeah, I agree. I would second it and be happy moving forward. I think it's well written. I like that you've considered so many angles on this, and I like the reference to pollinator spaces and and other creatures, as well as obviously us human beings, and all the detail. And I think it would be fine when the council and the town manager have the time and can reflect on it to do so. I'm comfortable also. Thanks.
So just my comment as staff, I know not to be picky on language. My recommendation would be to, if the motion maker would be amenable to it, to just change the adopt language to approve.
Yes, I'm amenable to that,
And I would
to adopt the
amend my
language.
second. Right.
So we can, so let's vote on the motion to approve.
Yeah,
Unless there's any other
document.
discussion.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
so it's a motion to approve and move it forward for town council's consideration.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 So we'll move this forward to,
Yep, so I
Town
will get it
council.
in the town manager's hands.
great.
And they'll schedule accordingly, like you said, with budget season, it might be out a few weeks or one a month, I don't know, yeah.
Well, I think it's, yeah, no, we don't meet frequently enough, I think, to really sleep on it. So I think we've done good work on it. You've done excellent work. I think bringing the grant writer in to look at it, because that's an important aspect, that the language would be there so that we would, check all the boxes for, getting a grant approval.
Mhm.
I think that's perfect. And we should definitely not wait too much longer. So is there any other discussion related to this, or do any members here tonight have any other things that they want to bring up? Make sure that I have, okay, public comments. That's the next item on the agenda. So if there is anyone from the public, there isn't anyone here in the room.
There's one attendee online.
Okay.
If the attendee online does want to comment, they can raise their hand.
Okay, and I think I know who that is, but it might be just somebody who's observing the meeting.
They have not raised their hand.
Great. Okay,
Thank
so
you for
no,
all your work on this, everybody. I just want to say thank you, everyone.
thank you too, Mitch. No, I think it's very important, and the more we look at these statistics about what people are concerned about, I think it's really we have to act. We can't wait. And I do really hope that town council is able to look at this sooner rather than later. We could start letting we can let the community know that we're doing something. Committee member comments. I do have a comment, but if anyone else would like to, please, Gail.
Is there any way, I'm very concerned, very, very, very concerned about the Hartford Hospital property. It being prime, in my eyes, it's prime open space. I mean, it's the gateway to Cedar Mountain. Open space around a town center, to me, is walkability, it's quality of life, it's contributes to, property value, what I think, and the amenities.
In the feel of the
in
town.
the feel of the town, plus it's the gateway to Newington as you're coming down Cedar Mountain. I mean, I think there's a lot of recreational opportunities that can be had. Gosh, even cross-country skiing trail around there and hiking. But anyways, that's my vision, and I know it's not gonna happen. My concern is that it's gonna be hundreds of apartments. Is there any way, I mean, is there anything we can do to have some kind of input or some kind of, or to purchase part of it or a grant or something?
So as far as grants, that's something, I can look into. That's something that I would, I think I've had discussion before. I would not step out of my role as, town planner to just make a decision for the community of that magnitude. Now that's if that's something where the council wants to move forward, where, my boss, the town manager, says, pursue this, I will. But there, has to be that, I think this is a very from the top community decision with a lot of input. As far as what the process happens for the way the land is now, so the land is zoned public land. which means it's primarily for those institutional public uses, whether government or a hospital. And it's primarily for that. To get any other different type of development on that property, the property would have to be rezoned. It would go through the rezoning process, through the TPZ, through public hearing, and that process would have to go forward. As far as that, I've also submitted an RFP for the study for that area. So now we have these two things happening at the same time. The study closes on, I believe it's February 14th or 15th. I put the date in there that we'll get the RFPs in and to see where and when and how fast we can get this thing going and get us studying the land and seeing what are the possibilities are. Again, the study, was originally envisioned again as the economic development for the town center. So that is still a key component of it. What can we do for the businesses? How is everything actually functioning? What are the market realities and what can we do to support it? But it also does include the entirety of the Hartford healthcare property as well. So, and that's something that I am looking for. Again, what are the market realities? What is likely to be proposed? And then what are some options? And that's where there should be a lot of community input in that study. Now, this is, again, it's going to be a larger discussion for the community. As far as purchasing the property, if I had a lottery ticket, sure, I'd take care of it, but that's not something that I have the ability to do myself.
Even like just even part of it, or, I mean, somebody talked to Hartford Healthcare about the dog park. So could somebody just approach and say, would they be amenable to donating a little bit of it, more land or something? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Both Mitch and Bernadette have their hand raised, so.
Go ahead, Bernadette.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you brought this up, Gail. I'm sure it's on every one of our minds. I'm sure we all have our hands up specifically about this. So, I think this is something, and I don't know if the other committee members would be comfortable with making a resolution from this committee that we would like to pursue this parcel or any portion of it for open space. I mean, even if we made the request or a resolution, something along that line to bring it to the town council, so it's in a more official capacity being considered or looked at. And is that a trigger that's needed for the town manager to direct you to be more active or proactive in this capacity? And I'll just leave it there. I'll let everybody see what everybody else thinks about
Great.
that.
Great. Mitch?
Yeah, I agree, Gail. I appreciate you bringing it up, and Bernadette, your comments. I couldn't agree more. And I think that together on this body, in this body, and on the council, and I hope with planning and zoning and with our all parties involved, we do, I think, collectively agree that open space is a priority, and that while we want to do some economic development, and there are some exciting opportunities possibly for some affordable housing elements and maybe retail, it needs to be done thoughtfully and to maintain, as is indicated in the surveys and just anecdotally and talking to folks, the character of our beautiful town center. So I think we're united completely on this, a consensus.
I spoke to Paul earlier in the week, and it's a 45-acre parcel. So I can imagine that there's opportunity for a lot of different needs for the town to be met in some way or another. I think I agree. I mean, I think whatever the most efficient way to kind of put it into a priority conversation, as opposed to just, just a statement, or if one of us should attend a town council meeting and just bring it up even as a commenter. I don't know what the best, most efficient way to do it is, but I think that's what Bernadette was getting at. And it sounds like the four of us here in this meeting would be open to kind of fast tracking this conversation.
And I think
And-
that
and-
actually, oh,
And I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, and Gail, you speak for yourself. I won't speak for you. I personally am happy to echo these comments in my time when I have it at the council meeting. So yes, sorry, I just wanted
Great.
to say that.
Okay.
But I also agree with Bernadette. I mean, it's one thing, you know, again, for each of us to speak as individuals, but if we brought something forward as the commission, the Open Space Committee, as that, you know, we share, we're excited, like you said, Mitch, about, you know, the opportunities that the Hartford Healthcare presents for Newington, but we also are cognizant that it's a very big, it's a large parcel of open space, and
Yes.
we're concerned, or we want to make certain that element is considered in whatever development goes, something like that. But I think, like Bernadette said, something from this committee
Agree.
will.
I think, and this is just, you know, looking at it again with timelines too and meetings and, you know, the next meeting being so far out
Yeah.
ahead. I liked your idea of actually, you know, as you said, going to the council and speaking of the consensus and speaking of the conversations that, you know, this conversation right here that the committee is having. You know, that there's the opportunity for anyone, including those members of the boards, to go and talk to the council and say,
Right.
here's what we view as important.
Is there any reason why we can't vote on like a sort of a nominal, the Open Space Committee wants to make a separate, a statement to, or is that just not?
Other than the procedural parts of doing it, I've actually never had a commission do anything specifically like that. So
Okay.
that would be something that if you choose to do so, unfortunately right now, I can't advise you the best on like what's the best
Right.
procedural way to do it again, because I noted with the way that the committee was kind of founded.
Yeah,
And again, there's no document and there's no item on the agenda for it. It's kind of like during discussion.
yeah.
But
Then we can
that's-
just say during the discussion, this is where
Bernadette has her hand raised again.
Bernadette.
Thank you. You know, there's not a lot under our purview other than looking at the open space and making recommendations, putting our ducks in a row for an opportunity that comes along like this. And I think it would be under our purview to at least make a recommendation from this committee to the town council to direct the town manager and the land use boards to look into whatever ways possible to preserve as much open space from this parcel as possible. Is that overstepping, just making a recommendation from this committee?
Can I
And
just add
they
something?
don't have to adopt it. They could accept it as, okay, we accept that recommendation, but to adopt it, I think would be a whole different thing. Maybe I'm splitting hairs, but then it would be up to the town council to take it from there. But I think we need to be as strong as possible in making whatever recommendation we can to take advantage of this opportunity.
And do you remember,
And that's-
Bernadette, when it was this commission that brought forward the change to adopt the zoning, an open space zoning? It was this commission that took the initiative and brought forward remember how long we worked on that, Bernadette?
Yes.
The zoning change. So this commission, it's not breaking precedent for us to take a strong action. So I agree. I just think it's going to hold more weight if, as a committee, we come forward and say, this is a communication from the Open Space Commission, regarding this piece of property. And I know, I know nobody wants meetings, especially me, but is there something that maybe we could draft?
Or
Um,
we could we potentially call a special meeting
You could.
as opposed to waiting till April?
Yep.
Put it on the agenda and then Do it then.
Some, some of us can, draft something up and can
Yes.
we like, is it not allowed with FOI or something? Can we send drafts back and forth? I said drafts to you or something?
What I would say is, yeah, I'd say don't send drafts back and forth. Ideas can be sent to me and I can coalesce them together. That might be the way to look at it. And it would also give me a chance, again, just to make sure procedurally ducks are in a row. This is, I'd talk to my boss in the nicest way possible. Cause yeah, as I said, it's with me.
We can make it, and I don't think it needs to be I think it can be simple. It just, what I have in mind is the Open Space Committee hereby recommends the town council direct the town manager to take whatever actions necessary to preserve as much of that parcel, whatever the name of it is. Is it Hartford Healthcare parcel to remain as open space? And that's my recommendation, that wording, very simply.
I think that would be reasonable myself. I mean, having been up there, I know that there are parts that are likely unbuildable anyway because of the slope. So there's going to be some property up near the ridge line that
They would probably give to the town.
they would either give to the town, do a conservation easement on, whatever, some kind of quid pro quo kind of situation potentially, again, at council's level, because we can't necessarily make those decisions.
And it's zoned as public land, so maybe
zoned
we
as
could
public land.
reference that, seeing as how it's zoned as public land, we have a great interest in preserving and utilizing for these, these purposes that we have put forth in this, in our criteria. all of the above.
Something like as developed, I don't think we can go out and say, don't develop at all unless we have money to buy it, but as development moves forward, we hope that you will consider the importance of preserving as much as possible the open space there, blah, blah, blah.
Just to be clear, there is a 5-acre parcel that is zoned as R12. And that's the piece on the other side between Patricia Genova and Cedar Street where the old houses used to be. That is currently zoned. So as R12, not public land. So potentially somebody could purchase that separately, which I
You said 5 acres?
It's right about 5 acres. Correct.
I mean, I think it's safe to assume, as you said, that it's not going to all be turned over to open space, but we want, I think what we really want is input. So that it just doesn't go, in the most, in the direction that we would, the most developed direction. There's so little in town that's really available of this size that I think it's very important. I'm okay with, coming back to having a special meeting. Maybe what we can do is, I don't know if we can, I think we've talked out some language for this, memo or communication to be drafted. I don't know if you need more from us beyond that. But I think if we could, if you could let us know when you've had a chance to kind of talk to your boss and then put it together, then we can look at having having a special meeting to look at it together. And I mean, I'd rather not wait till April if that's something that we can get done in the coming weeks or month or so.
I think Mitch has his hand
Commissioner
up.
Page, yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And hopefully this also, I was just going to say, we'll encourage other residents to get involved and either come to the council, come to these meetings, but participate in the discussion, because I think there are many, many people who are interested in this. And so hopefully this will build more interest. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Great.
Do you want us, I'm willing to try and draft something, or do you feel you have enough, as Gina said?
I can put together, if you would like to give recommended language, I'd happily take it.
Well, I think maybe if each of us, if we have any thoughts before, when would your deadline be? Before Monday, before?
I think they would need anything by Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of us, I guess, have any thoughts for just a language or a sentence or two, And then
Okay.
we'll pick out the best.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Commissioner
Yeah, that
Conway?
sounds good to me as well. That's what I was going to recommend, that I send you the language that I had in mind. And then we can, if we all do that, we can come up with something that we're all gonna be happy with. Just like anything else, we all contribute something in one little way or another that we can make better. So that sounds good. We'll send it. We can each do that and send it by Monday. That sounds good to me.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Is there anything else about this development that we need to discuss? No, because once you've had a chance to put that together, we can look at finding a time to meet. And getting that put to.
And by anticipation, as the special meeting,
Yeah,
you can call together in a couple days
Yeah.
and it can be Zoom only.
It can be Zoom only, yeah.
okay, perfect. I think we've covered that. Is there any more discussion? I know that was very important and that was on top of everyone's mind.
I
Thank
think we're
you.
good. Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your participation tonight.
Thank you all.
Well timed.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Good
everyone.
night.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Good night.
You too.
Have a great night.
Right.